was a good idea to start a podcast in a global pandemic.
We have to let you know, Bobby, that you're being recorded for legal reasons.
Oh, just in case I was going to get some money out of it at the end.
Mate, we're not even making money from it, so you're not going to get any money from it.
It would be lovely if we were, though. One day, maybe.
Maybe. When I spoke to Josh about it, I was like, obviously I'll have to ask my agent if I'm free on Wednesday night to join the call.
Right, hello guys, welcome back. Tonight we are joined with my best friend, who also happens to be a nurse, Bobby. Hello, Bobby. Say hello.
Hello.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi.
Hey.
We like to start our calls off normally with the good, the bad and the ugly, Bobby. So this week, rather than us doing it, we thought we'd ask you what has happened in the last week or two, what that has been. Fucking flat buzzer would go off.
Oh, it's not even got this.
Keep that in. You've got to keep that in.
I'm so embarrassed. It's my wine. My baby turns 1 tomorrow. It's on Deliveroo. It's the best thing in the world.
Oh my God.
I love that.
You're living the dream.
So I'm just going to order. He's going to ask me my date of birth now as well.
How are you?
Hiya. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Cheers. I had to clank them together as well, so you know there's more than one.
Do you want to pour yourself a glass of wine to get through this?
Right, sorry, I'm back.
So, the good, the bad and the ugly. This week we'll do it a bit differently and ask you what's been good, what's been bad and what's been ugly in the last couple of weeks for you.
Good. I'm on annual leave this week, so it means I'm not working. It's just full-time mum for the week, which is a rarity. I'm not doing any overtime either, so I'm literally just a week off.
Yeah.
Bad. It's not a bad thing, but it does set the hormones off, and like Liliana turns 1 tomorrow, so obviously it's like massive. Like a year ago today I was at my mum's and I didn't want to come back home to Josh because I didn't feel right and I didn't want it to be a false alarm. So it does make you like, what's the word when you're thinking about, yeah, so it's obviously not a bad thing. She made it to 1. I've achieved.
It makes me emotional that she's been to 1 because I've seen her about bloody 10 times.
Yeah, I think just when I went back to work so early with her, I feel like I've missed out.
Yeah, we're getting that in a bit though. So what's your bad? No, that was your bad. What's your ugly?
That's my bad. My ugly, oh God. So Liliana had obviously had a poo when she was like mid-eating dinner.
Okay.
So do you know, if you leave it too long, it sort of dries a little bit. So she sort of sat in it while she was eating her dinner. And then when I was getting her changed to like put her in the bath, I'd wiped her bum and a bit had obviously fallen out the nappy.
Okay.
And Jacob stood in it. But he didn't even just stand in it. He it'd gone quite dry, so he peeled it off the bottom of his foot. And I thought he said, I've stepped in poo, but he didn't. He said, it's fucking shit. Oh no, it's fucking poo, was what he said. And then I was like, Jacob, please don't say that word. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, mummy, I'm so sorry. And then Josh come in, obviously like, Dad's dad. And they'd said, oh, well, he could have said it was fucking shit, so at least he only swore the once. And I was like, that's not how you parent, Josh. It's just not how you're supposed to tell them off.
The thing is, though, it was in context, so...
Yeah, that's the best bit. So they don't know how, they can swear. He knows all the swear words, but he knows how to use them as well. Brilliant. Oh, I just hope he doesn't do it at school. How embarrassing would that be to get called into school? It's not even like a little one. It's a bad one.
It's a big one.
It's a big one.
Faye does it. Faye probably taught Jacob how to do it because she's always used them in the right context. You remember when we were driving over them speed bumps and she was like, oh, fucking hell, Bobby, slow down.
I can imagine her saying that.
Yeah.
Me too.
I dropped stuff off at the door whilst Abby was isolating, and I dropped it at the front door, and I'd promised her that I was going to take her a present, and I just forgot. I was in such a stress with Liliana in the shop, and I forgot to pick up a present. And I got to the front door and put Abby's cigarettes down at the door, and then Faye turned around and was like, where's my present? And I was like, I'm really, really sorry, Faye, I forgot to lift it. Like, I just wasn't thinking. And straight as anything, I think you should think more. It's like,
I love her. I had a milkshake once and I had to go back and get it.
She's brilliant.
Oh, she's hilarious. She's so funny.
I wonder where she gets that from.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
I want to.
I
like that. Think more.
I think you should think more. She's definitely a character.
She's a wise soul.
Bobby, do you feel that we need a bit of a backstory as to why she became a nurse first before we jump into the 24 questions?
Yeah,
Probably make me cry. When I was really young. So my mum's mum was diagnosed with cancer, and I used to say, so that's my gran. I was always really, really close with my gran. I was the firstborn from my mum. Well, out of like all of her children, I'm the eldest. So I was my gran's first grandchild. And she didn't have a good relationship with my mum, so it meant that I was then like to heal the damaged relationship, if that makes sense. It brought my mum and my gran a lot closer after I was born. She had a drinking problem, so she wasn't allowed to drink when she had me, which was the easiest thing in the world for her to give up because it meant that she got to have me for a sleepover. So I was always really close with her. And then, she got diagnosed with bone cancer. It was primary thyroid cancer, and then it spread to her bones, and then eventually it was lung cancer, and that's how she passed away. But she passed away in 2008. So she was only 58 when she passed away. She was really, really young. And I used to like stay on a Friday night. I'd walk home from school to stay with my gran, and I wouldn't go back until the Sunday night because I didn't trust her carers to look after her the way that I would look after her. So I think like if I was born in 95 and she died in 2008, then what's that, 5 and 8, 13?
13.
So, and she'd had the bone cancer for a couple of years. It was really, really fast. So I moved down in 2008. She died in 2007. So I was 12. So she did die when, like, it was literally just before my 12th birthday, she passed away. So say about 9 or 10 when I was looking after her. And it was literally, I didn't trust the carers to do as good a job. And I would like empty her catheter bag for her, and I'd make her a cup of tea, but I couldn't carry the tea up the stairs. So I'd put it like on the chairlift, and then the chairlift would carry it upstairs so that she could get a cup of tea, helping her get onto her commode and all that. So I think that's probably where it started. But Mum's got photos of me, like, little dressed up as a nurse. I think it's just literally all I've ever wanted to do. And then once you start going down the health and social care route at college and things like that, you don't really have massive options as to where you're going to end up. Well, I suppose you do, because you've got social care side of it as well. But yeah. I was never really... I'm a bit more hands-on.
You did do social care though, didn't you?
Yeah, so it was health and social care. My first job was... I did the domiciliary, like, home care. Mm-hmm. I did like that because you were sort of working on your own, and then you'd go in and let it be little things like you might only like put a lunch on and then just sit there whilst your patient had lunch and keep them company. And then there was quite a bit of personal care. But because you don't get paid for the travel time, you'd be like at work, your first call would be 7 o'clock in the morning, but you wouldn't finish until like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, but you'd actually only get paid for like the 7 hours that you did. So that's when I went to a nursing home. And then after I had Jacob, I thought you've got until they start school where you're sort of like entitled to all the benefits. And I thought I can either sit on my bum and just focus on Jacob for 5 years, or I can try and go to uni. So it was nursing that I picked. I still can't believe I actually did it, you know.
You did it.
I actually qualified.
Anything like that, like, fair fucking play to you. I think about doing stuff like I'm capable. I know I am, but then I just think, nah.
Honestly, same.
Nah, I couldn't.
It is the best thing I've ever done.
On the daily, I say to myself, "God, Mills, go back to uni, study." Like that was like my backup. Like if I chose not to do music, it would be nursing or midwifery. And I'm like, "God, Mills, go back to uni, do your midwifery." And I'm just like, nah, I can't.
Dave says it to me all the time. He says, "You're young enough to do whatever you want, babe. Like, go and do it." And I'm like, nah, I'm not.
Nah.
No, it's definitely, I think it is an experience. I just think nowadays so many people have got degrees, and then where it's all student loan funded and things like that, I just think like nowadays you need them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it does help. It does help.
Everything's so expensive, and then I don't know, especially with the way the world is at the moment, I just think a bit of a standstill.
I literally look at my student loan account and it's like £69,000 that I owe. I'm going to be paying that one off until I die.
Yeah, mine's quite high too.
I just don't understand, like, education should be free.
It is in Scotland, university's free in Scotland.
Because you were thinking about moving back to Scotland, weren't you? So your kids got free education.
Yeah, I did get accepted to Scottish uni because I was meant to do my nursing at Concordia, and then I chickened out of moving up.
How long have you been a nurse for?
So I qualified in September, 22nd of September this year. Oh, last year, because we're in the new year now, aren't we?
We are in the new year, yeah.
Yeah, September. So your training course is 3 years. if you're single field, so I'm just adult field. And then 3 years at uni as a student nurse, and then qualified in September.
So you've said that Liliana's turning 1. Obviously, I know that. But did it affect your mood, your postpartum, going back and working through this pandemic?
At the time, I didn't think it had until I wasn't very well mental health-wise in August. And I think, to be honest, it was because I'd gone back to work when she was 5 weeks old. And then I'd gone through the first peak. And then in August, it was like a bit of normality. Like, even like you guys all have noticed, like when it got after the first peak, it then dropped. And it was sort of like, oh, well, that's it. We've done it. Like, and even though we knew the potential, like, second peak that was coming, like, we're like, oh, well, we made it through the first one. It's never going to be as bad as what the first one was. Thinking that it'd be like an incremental decline through the peaks. And then obviously that really has not been the case this time. So I think in August, when baby had started sleeping through the night, so I wasn't as exhausted, I think it all just kind of hit me then. And obviously Josh went away because he was in the Navy for a little bit, and he'd gone away in the May. So I think probably did definitely not help with the postpartum, but at first I was too busy even to notice.
So did you like have a graduation or anything? 'Cause you said you qualified on the 20th of September, so
no, nothing.
I know they were like rushing people.
So I was part of the third year nurses that got it, like, sort of like emergency recruited, if you like. So I spent the last 6 months of my degree working at QA. So I didn't feel like a student anymore. And they'd like trained me to do my medication and things like that. So I was basically a nurse, but without the pen and still under sort of supervision.
So how did your role change from being a student nurse to go into a qualified nurse throughout the pandemic? Because it obviously wasn't a normal transition for you.
No. So I guess like you sort of, when you start your training, you get all these competencies and things that you've got to start. So like even like giving out medication. So if I wanted to give someone paracetamol, you've got to be like deemed competent to give that medication. But I'd already done that before I was qualified. So then it was just sort of like, I literally qualified and it was like, right, this is your team of patients, here's your drug trolley.
Go, go, go.
Yeah, basically.
So scary.
So they were kind of like so rushed off their feet that they were getting you to do something that you weren't even qualified for. That was sort of like before the next peak had started. So it was still quite, the hospital was never empty. Never empty. What was one of our questions? How do you feel about the videos of the empty hospitals? Because we know it's bogus.
I can't even say what I want to say to that one.
Well, I'll say that I went, my friend had a procedure done and it was like day surgery. It wasn't surgery, but it was like a day procedure.
Outpatients procedure.
Yeah, she had like anesthesia and stuff and I had to go pick her up. I had to go in and physically get her. And it was quiet, but you could like hear like I can't describe it, but like it was eerie because you could hear like the buzzing in the distance, where it was quiet because there was no one walking around it that I was in. It was, you know, like you're walking from the car park to where you need to go.
Yeah.
There would be visitors and there was nurses and stuff and doctors all walking around, but it wasn't busy because it wasn't heaving with fucking people visiting people.
Yeah, we don't have any visitors on the ward. I don't know if that's like the case for everywhere. Obviously, like there'll be special circumstances that you can have visitors without being too depressing.
Yeah, so it's like I support adults with disabilities. So if they lack capacity and the hospital, they would have an advocate with them.
Yeah, same here. When one of the people I support had a stroke back in August, and we had one member of staff with her at all times because she lacks the capacity to be on her own.
Yeah, so in these circumstances they would have to have an advocate. But when I was there, it was just eerie because it's normally busy with the general public. Like you could still see the doctors and the nurses were busy. Everything was so there was social distancing in place. There was more hand sanitizer than I've ever seen in my entire life everywhere.
Literally.
you could almost hear like a distant buzz from like behind the walls that you weren't allowed in, that you could hear people doing stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
so
it pissed me off, those videos.
yeah, like the video when she's like she literally walks past Costa, like.
That's been closed since August.
It is open. The Costa is open.
Oh, is it?
Like,
Staff?
yeah. Do you know what would happen if we couldn't get our caffeine whilst we were at work? Good God. You just walk onto the ward and there'd just be like nurses asleep everywhere. You'd be tripping over doctors like fast asleep, snoring their heads off if the Costa wasn't open. And then the bit with the beds. Do you see the bit where the beds are like sitting in the corridor?
No, I switched it off.
That's literally the bit with the beds outside the we've got a massive big bed storage, because obviously like whilst beds are being repaired, or not that they're not in, we've obviously got more beds than we've got capacity for the beds.
Yeah.
It's like spares.
Yeah, like a boat with lifeboats on it.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, and that was literally outside the bed storage. We've got no bed spaces that haven't got a patient in it that we would usually keep a spare bed.
Yeah.
There's patients there. So that was the most annoying bit. And the Royal College of Nursing had put out a thing to say, like, we know that people really want to respond with their views, but you're just going to encourage her to sort of snap back.
Hasn't she been fined, and she's also now not allowed to enter a hospital at all unless she's invited for an appointment?
Yeah.
Or an emergency.
Or it's an actual life or death emergency, otherwise she's not in.
So I read, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. 2 years, November 19th. Yeah, I was really poorly. Like, I just couldn't. I know it sounds really weird, but I was trying to do something with my hands, and like it just felt like they weren't working. You know, when you're just so poorly and you're just so achy. And I remember looking at my mum like, "Mum, I think I'm broken." She's adamant that I had.
But we thought you had it last year, didn't we, Bobs?
Yeah, I was convinced that I'd had it in March. We had a bit of a girls' night out after I had Liliana, and then
before lockdown, obviously.
Yeah, just before. And literally, I spent the whole week on the couch. I could not move. I fell asleep with the kids in the house. Like, I could not do anything. I was so ill. But then I tested positive on the 11th of January. Just gone. So
yeah, I was the same. So I was really, really poorly, like December to February 19 to 20, and then and then when it first came out and the symptoms came out, and I was like, that really, really sounds like COVID. But obviously, we didn't really know about it then. And then I tested positive January the 8th this year.
Touch wood, I don't test positive. I take my vitamins and I wear them. I don't want it.
I take my vitamins.
I couldn't believe it.
I ran past someone today, literally was nowhere near him. He went, "Watch your space." And I just want to say, if you're that bothered, mate, fuck off home and put a face mask on.
Oh, I literally had this elderly man in Asda. He had his mask on and he was talking to Liliana. She was sitting in the trolley. And he was like, "Oh, hello, little lady." And she started crying because she's a lockdown baby. So if anyone talks to her, she just has a meltdown. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, "Oh, it's probably my mask scaring her." So he pulled it down. And I was like, "What are you doing? Like, stop."
From a baby.
I was at my mum's because my sister had a baby in the summer. So we can still go there. Like, we're her support bubble. Mm. And we went there. My nan and Gramps come to the front door to drop something off for my sister, and they were wearing these visors. Honestly, my heart broke. Like, I just wanted to hug him. The first time I'd seen him in about since Harriet was born, so 6 months maybe.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And they were wearing, and it just made me so sad. And my nan just looked at me. She went, "I've just had enough of it all now." And my heart, I can't take it. It's awful.
It is so sad, isn't it?
Awful.
It is so, and where there's no visitors coming out of the hospital, is there if your loved one was in hospital and you can't even get up to see them, and then the phone lines are just so constantly busy on our ward, and you're trying to update family members, and that it's relatives calling to say I just can't get through. It's heartbreaking.
The nurses though, because I was in for an outpatient procedure in October, so it was literally the day before Faye's birthday, and then it ended up turning into like an overnight procedure, so I had to stay in for the night. And like I was like, well, I can't because my daughter's birthday, like I don't want to stay here. And like they feel awful because you can't, my mum couldn't even come up to the ward to bring me stuff to stay. In the end they were like, do you know what, you're the last one in, we're going to let her up, but she can't stay for long. So like I feel awful for you guys because you're stuck in a catch-22 where like, you know, your patients need to see your relatives, but you physically can't do anything.
Is that trying to like, you've got to like think for like the bigger picture as well. So obviously like we can't, so we'll obviously have our masks on, but we can't socially distance from our patients. Like I couldn't like just flick my tablets at my patients and hope for the best. Like we can't, it's impossible.
Do a dark an IV.
Just hope that I get it to connect. Like we can't do it. So obviously like any family member that was then to come in, that expands our bubble.
Yeah.
And you need nurses and healthcare doctors, even our catering staff and things like that have been brilliant. But they need us to look after them more than they need a family member to come in and see them.
We're quite lucky with this day and age, though, with like Skype, obviously, like we're on now, and I was going to say Bluetooth, like FaceTime. I don't know what I meant by Bluetooth. It's just the old lady in me coming out. Like FaceTimes and stuff, like they have, because QA has free Wi-Fi, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's the like family liaison officers that have sort of come into play during the pandemic, so they've been going about with like the iPads and doing FaceTimes and things like that with relatives. But so I think sometimes that's harder because if I could see my mum and I couldn't get to her, it's just it is like say catch-22. It's torture for the relatives. It really, really is, especially at the minute because you hear like coronavirus, and then our patients are over 85, so as soon as they hear that their elderly relative has got COVID, they're literally like devastated.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Talking about hard things, life in general at the moment, but what's been the hardest thing during this pandemic for you?
The hardest things? Work-wise or personal-wise?
Both.
I think it's been like the added pressure. So obviously like when we were like the schools were going back and things like that, I literally was like, so our ward was all COVID positive, and I was like stepping off of a COVID positive ward at 8:00 at night and standing on the school playground at 8:30 the next day, and mums weren't socially distancing, they didn't all have their masks on. And I literally, so I was like, I said to the teacher, I got really, really upset to Jacob's teacher, like meltdown mode. I can't bring him at the same time that everyone else is here. I don't want to be close to this many people. It's bad enough that Jacob's got to come to school, but I'm not worried about Jacob's health. Like the kids have shown to be more resilient to it. Like that's not what I'm worried about. If he gets it, it's not going to be as dangerous for him. He's not got any underlying health conditions or anything like that. But obviously then the worry is that he's a link in a chain that ultimately leads to a vulnerable person.
Yeah.
And that was where like the paranoia came from, that it just felt so wrong that I was literally stepping out of work, coming home, going for my shower, going to bed, and then setting foot on a playground the next day. That just did not make any sense to me. So Jacob was getting dropped off later. As long as he was there before 9:00, he didn't get a late mark. So he was literally getting dropped off at 9:00 so that I didn't have to see anybody else on the playground.
That he wouldn't get a late mark. Surely, given the circumstances, they should just write that off anyway. And just
absolutely.
You'd like to have thought so, but no. I think that was like the worst bit, was the playground. And obviously not seeing like my friends. And then Liliana, like I literally, she's one now, but especially in the first week, like I literally just had a baby and could just see my mum, which obviously I'm not moaning. I see my mum all the time anyway, but not being able to see friends, not being able to, like, it sounds silly, but like monkey business or like anything like that we could literally just socialise with other mums. That's it, really, isn't it? Hard.
The social side of things is where people are struggling.
Yeah.
Because it's now also had a backtrack on Liliana as well, hasn't it? In the health visitors' eyes.
Oh, yeah, the health visitor. Personally, I think she's okay. Like, she's very clingy. She's really, really clingy, but I don't know if that's any difference between like a baby boy and a baby girl. She's a lot clingier than Jacob ever was. But the health visitor...
very much like Liliana, wasn't she?
Yeah, Faye was. But the health visitor says that she's socially and emotionally below cut-off.
What does that mean?
Oh, exactly. I don't really know. When I said socially, I said like obviously like she goes between me and my mum, and that's like it. She's not seeing any other children. She's not seeing any other babies.
She's 1 tomorrow.
Yeah.
See, my sister had a baby in the summer, and she's my sister just calls it, she's mummified. Like, she spends all day, every day with my sister. You know, my sister lives at home with my mum and her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's a funeral director, and my mum works as a nursery, what are they called?
Practitioner.
Yeah, practitioner. I was going to say kindergarten teacher, but we're not American. My mum works there, so literally it was just my sister and Harriet. And then when I wasn't doing long stints at work, because I was a single person household at the time, it was just me. So she's so mummified. Like, don't get me wrong, she's lush, and I think she's the most beautiful thing ever, because obviously I'm biased, but she is. But she is really, really mummified, but she's not been to any like baby classes or anything, like normal things that you would do.
That's got to be hard for your sister as well, though, because she's a first-time mum, whereas me and Bobby, Bobby has another child, and we hated the mum groups anyway because they're just so like cliquey, didn't we? So we never went to them anyway.
Pretentious.
See, I could never, ever imagine sitting there singing like Frere Shaka. I'm not that kind of mum. I'll meet you in spoons.
That at all. But having the option of being able to do things like that, and finding mummy friends with children the same age as you, and you know, having that something in common. She didn't have any. Like, she had none of that, and it broke my heart. Like, we had a chat about it, and she started. I'm sorry, Lauren, if you're listening to this, but she started crying, and I just felt like I just wanted to make it all better, and I couldn't. Like, I listened to her give birth on the phone, which is weird. But my mum
could have been FaceTime. So.
Huh?
Could have been FaceTime, so at least you were only listening.
Well, but when she was in labour, when she went to hospital, they told me she was in hospital, so I thought I'll give her a call, because I knew she was by herself, and she was, funnily enough, watching Grey's Anatomy. And but she was like talking to me, but she was going like breathing through the pain, and I was like, are you all right? She said it's really, really painful, and we chatted for a bit, and she said, like, thanks, you've taken my mind off of it. And then the next day my mum texted me saying it's happening. So I tried to call my mum and she didn't answer, and I was getting fucking fuming. Like, how dare you not answer your phone? Like, I am your child. Answer your phone. This isn't all about Lauren. Like, you know, I was just getting... And then my brother called me like, she's on the phone to Lauren. And I was like, okay, touche. I didn't think she'd be on the phone to Lauren. For some reason, I don't know why, that didn't register, but obviously it was being a bit self-centered. And then Dan was like, shh, listen. So I listened to my sister give birth.
From your mum's phone? While your mum was at the...
be there. So she's like, well, we agreed that I'd be on the phone, which I thought was quite sweet. But yeah. Really sad that it's my mum's first grandbaby and she couldn't be there for her own baby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You were still able to have both Josh and your mum in, weren't you, Bobs?
Yes, I was literally like February was just before the lockdown restrictions and everything come into place. So I still had, and thank God, because I think I would have killed Josh. He was literally like, the whole time. So I left it too late because I thought, I've got plenty of time, I've got ages. And basically, I nearly gave birth in main reception at QA. How embarrassing as well, because I work there. Like, wouldn't you be mortified?
No.
And then
natural.
I sent him to get a drink, and as soon as he left the room, I was like, I can't believe I let him do this to me. I
can't wait to be like that with Dave if we have a kid. But this is all your fucking fault.
Honestly, it was. But then in the end, she was like halfway out, like they got her head out, and I just went into total shock mode, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So I tried to get off the bed, so Josh actually had to like hold me on. Mum had an arm, Josh had like my torso holding me down, the midwife had one leg, and the healthcare support worker had the other leg, because I was like, no, I'm not, it's too sore, I'm not doing it.
With the head hanging out.
Yeah, literally with Liliana like half out, the midwife was like, you need to hold her down. So Josh was just like squashing me. My mum would never have been able to keep me down.
No.
Such a beautiful name though.
Liliana.
Yeah, lovely. I love it.
Mum's Lillian, so she's named after my mum.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but I thought Lillian, it's not old fashioned. I've met loads of Lillians now. But Lily is too common. I know so many Lilies. So I thought, Liliana.
Oh, I like it. That's really sweet.
I love that it's she's named after your mum. We're all about mums here. Don't know if you've noticed.
They actually call her Lily Nana. Let's be real.
Nobody calls her Liliana.
Well, Faye does. Faye doesn't like it when you call her Lily Nana.
Oh, I was on FaceTime to Tamara, my friend, and she calls her Lily Nana as well. My mum was like, "Oh my God, does anybody actually use her proper name?" And I was like, I don't actually think they do. I said, Faye is probably the only one that calls her Lily Nana, unless she's being naughty. But apart from that, Lily Nana.
Oh, you do the full name then, don't you?
I was going to put Louise as her middle name, but
it's a great middle name.
Yeah, but Josh said it was too much.
Absolutely not if she's in trouble, like Liliana Louise. And you'd be like,
Exactly. That's what I need, because I call her Liliana all the time. She gets Liliana constantly, so you need something to add on.
I've never had that. I don't have a middle name.
No, me neither.
Just Millie, and my mum doesn't call me Mills because, so she just calls me Mooch, and then if I'm in trouble, she's like, Millie. And I'm like,
See, I'm always...
Pisses me off. I'm like, David, no middle name, Osborne.
I might just start calling her Liliana, no middle name.
Love that.
See if she gets the point.
So I have a question here that I'm actually quite intrigued to know the answer to. Was there a point during this that you were at work and you just stopped and thought, what the fuck am I doing here?
It's just like on a daily basis. No. I think the worst one, and I still, when I think back to it, is literally like the worst thing I've gone through the whole pandemic. So obviously we weren't allowed visitors, and in the first lockdown I feel like people were taking the restrictions a lot more seriously, and they were really, really doing as they were told. So nobody was travelling anywhere. So if your relative was in hospital in Portsmouth, you wouldn't travel to go and see them. So we had like one patient in particular, like it was a story for so many. When they were reaching the end of their life, the relatives were having to say goodbye on the phone. And obviously I put the phone on loudspeaker because I wanted to make sure that the patient could 100% hear what the relative was saying to them. So I don't think it matters what age you are. If you're saying goodbye to your parent, you are still a child saying goodbye to your mum or dad. Like that's what, even an elderly, even if your children are like 70, saying goodbye to a 90-year-old parent, that's still a child saying goodbye to their mum or dad. And it literally was on loudspeaker, and I just listened to his daughter saying goodbye. And I was an emotional wreck. I was so upset. I couldn't stop crying. I was trying like not to let the relative hear that I was literally sobbing my eyes out on the phone. End of life care is like, it's meant to be like in a cubicle, really private, totally dignified. Don't have that option at the minute. The cubicles are being saved for the people that at the time during the pandemic, like when it was at the peak, that the cubicles were being saved for the people that were negative or at really high risk. If they got it, that they wouldn't be able to recover. So they were in a cubicle to try and keep them safe. So if you were passing away or end of life, you were then in a bay with other people, and that's just not how it's meant to be at all. And it was literally like relatives saying goodbye on the phone.
Are you crying as well?
Yeah. It sets me off every time. It's just, I've got such PTSD when I think about that phone call. And I was crying so bad. And you two, when you got kids, like, you can't cry in front of your kids. You don't cry in front of your kids. You just don't do it. And the only thing that made me get a grip, I phoned my dad and I was literally howling. I was like, I need to talk to Jacob. I need to talk to Jacob right now because I got a shift to finish. And my dad put Jacob on the phone, and I literally, I snapped out of it. And I was like, oh, what are you doing at Grand's house? He's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, Mummy's absolutely fine. She just got a snotty nose, because it was the only thing that I could, get a grip, because it just wasn't going to happen otherwise. Can you, actually imagine listening to, usually they're in a cubicle and you shut the door and, you're in total privacy saying goodbye to your mum or dad. You've got no one listening. And I'm literally, holding the phone, and she called him Daddy as well. And that just, it don't matter how old you are.
It's breaking me.
It's literally.
My dad's not seen his mum. It's in person since March last year. She fell over, broke her hip, and she has dementia, and they put her in a home. He waved at her through the window, and I thought that was bad enough, but that just...
It was just a case for so many that they were saying goodbye on the phone.
Did you ever expect going into, this isn't a question that has been sent in, this has just come from what you've just said, but did you ever expect going into a nursing degree that you'd be saying goodbye to so many patients and not being able to help them?
I bet where I work with patients who are over the age of 85, they're sort of if they get ill or like they do start to deteriorate, sometimes it just takes pneumonia. It just takes a cold that leads to a chest infection that then leads to pneumonia, and it's so sad. But that's just what it's like in elderly care.
But given more circumstances, though, their family would normally be able to come in and be with them. But
you had to be nurse, you had to be daughter, sister, like. Yeah. And I think when I like started working, like, and I was still at uni, I hadn't actually qualified yet, and someone said to me, like, this is what you train for, like, and I was so mad because nobody trains for this. No, literally no one. And
all four of us are crying. It's a real struggle.
So
we need a break?
Not to recover, because like you're there like all the time.
I remember like we've had a conversation
like, moaning about not being able to give my nan a hug. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
No, I don't feel like that, because I moan that I can't get to the pub and I'm on the front line and I'm waiting to get to the pub. So don't feel guilty about what you want when it's over. I
want to go
wait.
To the pub. No.
Can we all go to the pub, please?
100%. I'll be taking that mask off like I take my brow off at the end of the day. I cannot wait to not have to wear that mask again.
I'm going to burn every single mask I've got in my house. They are going, like, all the reusable ones, they are going in a bin and they are being burnt.
If anyone mentions coronavirus around me, once the final patient is discharged, I'm literally going to kick them in the vagina because I don't want to hear about it anymore. I'm so done. I think when you don't train to be a nurse to start your shift and not know how many patients you're going to have left at the end of it. Yeah. That's not how you start. That's not why you do your training.
Yeah, but you didn't train to work during a global pandemic. No one saw it coming. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is even happening right now? Like,
I feel like my grandparents saw this coming, because those two have been isolating since coronavirus was in Wuhan. They've not left that house. Literally. My gran, like, what shit? She was like, nah, not having this. She's been having her M&S delivered. She's not leaving the house. Not leaving for nothing.
Oh, I love that old people shop in M&S. Like, what is it? Why? But I love it.
I would love to be able to shop in M&S.
I know, I love M&S, but it's like old people love it, don't they? Just yeah. Sorry.
So on that note, what more could we as the public do to help you guys more? Like, is there something that we could do that would help you more? I think just following the government guidance, to be honest. And now that 111 are sort of doing the appointments and things like that, to sort of like, if you can imagine, like, I've not been down to the emergency department in forever. I just know that they've got such a great team of staff down there. They really, really do. I was so lucky to get to do a placement in there. But I don't know what it's like for, like, social distancing or separating patients or whatever. They're probably trying their absolute best.
I don't think you're allowed to go down there now. I think you have to call before.
Yeah, you do.
So I think things like that's probably making sure you utilise other services. But then, like, the problem that we've got is you don't want to scare people away from coming to the hospital, because you'll find that the people that are too scared to come to the hospital are probably the people that need it the most. Yeah. But you saw it on the news tonight, like, hospital admissions are really going down.
And so did the positive cases tonight as well, didn't they? Just for clarification, we're recording this on the 10th of February 21, because we don't know when this episode is going to go out.
I used to watch all the press conferences, but now I just think I scare myself too much. Mm-hmm. When they announced the second lockdown, I nearly had a full-blown panic attack. I was by myself and I was fucking fed up.
You know what?
I've just had enough.
The second lockdown was it wasn't actually Halloween, but me, Bobby and Josh were throwing a Halloween party for Jacob, Faye and Josh's and Bobby's little girl Ruby. And we all sat there, we'd had a Chinese and the kids had had the best day, they'd done apple bobbing and everything. And we were having a couple of drinks and then the news came on and it just ruined the night, didn't it? Because we knew that was the last time we all got to spend time together.
Yeah.
And like before that, literally, we were together every fucking day that we could be.
And then because whilst before the lateral flow testing come out, we weren't seeing Ruby at all, because obviously I work at the hospital. Jacob and Liliana, that's my choice to work at the hospital and then come home to them. They're my children. That's my choice. But we obviously, it's Ruby's mum's choice as to whether she was happy with me working at the hospital and then coming to be in contact with Ruby. And she wasn't, which, do you know what I mean? If I hadn't chosen my career, I probably wouldn't have been happy with it either. So we didn't see Ruby until the lateral flow testing had then gone out. So I had a massive strain on Josh, because that's obviously his daughter.
It's quite frustrating as well that the lateral flow testing came to the hospitals later than it came to care homes, because Jess actually started getting her lateral flow testing before you even got your testing done, Bobs. So
I don't know whether that's just because, like, on the scale of staff in the nursing home to the scale of staff in the hospital, that there's so many more that it just took longer to get it out.
Yeah,
plus
maybe.
I had some time off as well, so maybe by the time I'd actually got, I don't need the lateral ones anymore, but we don't get PCR tested unless we've got symptoms or a positive lateral flow.
So talking about lack of those tests then, do you think the NHS was adequately equipped to deal with a pandemic?
I don't know, I'm only a nurse. Jesus Christ.
When it comes to like PPE and stuff, because they're in the first couple of press conferences and some of the stuff on the news, and I don't know how true it is because like I'm not, but they were saying that because of government funding cut, that the NHS should have been prepared for something like this, but weren't prepared in regards to PPE, ventilators and all the equipment that they needed. So how was that for you? Like,
ventilators and things like that, that's in ITU, like, so critical care, and I don't work there, so I don't really know. I wouldn't even know how to turn it on, I'm not gonna lie. I honestly don't know, because there was never a time that, like, I didn't have masks, glove, aprons. Like, we always managed to find them, whether we were like sourcing them from other wards or whatever. Whether, like, maybe there's meant to be like a certain amount, like, as backup, or a certain amount in stock, and the numbers were lower, and that's why there was the panic about it.
But personally, to you, it didn't affect you?
But no, never. There's always been a bit of a, like, pain in the bum, like finding pumps and stuff like that. Like, but a lot of that, we've got like a big equipment library, and then you take equipment out of there that you need, and a lot of the time equipment isn't returned, which doesn't help. So there's like situations like that. If I needed like an IV pump or whatever.
Yeah,
but like yours
that's
sort of find them.
Pandemic as well, though, because I remember when Faye's being in hospital and they're like, oh, who's got this? Because we can't find it, we need it for this patient type thing. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of standard, isn't it? Yeah,
I don't ever remember a time that we didn't have, like, the PPE sort of changed, like the visors and things like that. So we didn't wear the visors the whole way through, but now we do wear the visors.
It's really weird because we didn't wear the visors. We wore face masks, and then we were told to wear face masks and visors, and then we were told that we didn't have to wear visors, and that, like, it's just like, make your mind up.
There must have been at some point, because so the FFP3 masks, which are the ones that look like the ones that you wear when you're painting and decorating, we've had like certain different types of them, and we've had to be like retested to make sure that they fit properly a couple of times, as I guess supply has changed.
Yeah.
But then if supply's changing, there's still supply, so it's not a shortage. But I never know how gold standard the news and that is. I'd like to say if the news is reporting on it, it might be true, but you never know.
Well, you don't know in this day and age, do you?
Do you think the government have done enough?
I think I honestly think Boris has done such a good job. Like, could you actually imagine being in his situation? I didn't vote. I didn't vote Conservative, but I think, was there actually any, could you imagine like Theresa May being in charge of this?
Not really,
as an
no.
example.
Not the only thing he's had to deal with either, is it?
Brexit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people could listen more, but then there's such a problem like mask fatigue and people getting bored of the lockdown. And
what's mask fatigue?
Or you just get fed up wearing it, so you just take it off. Like, you know when you see people in Asda and they've like got their nose out.
Yeah.
And like they might as well have that mask off because it's
honestly,
doing nothing.
It winds me up so much.
Okay, it's better than nothing. At least it's on, but it's doing nothing.
If I have to wear one all day, and if all doctors and nurses have to suit up in full PPE, you can wear a fucking face mask to walk down Lidl's middle aisle.
Yeah, absolutely. I wear one for 15 hours at a time sometimes, and I think I've got this on for 15 hours.
Because I'm a nurse, so I have to be open. And I think things like, so claustrophobia, anxiety, like these are genuine reasons why people can, if you feel claustrophobic and you put something over your face, if you've got some sort of PTSD, anything that goes back to like having something over your face,
but then
things like that.
That would be a genuine exemption now.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it's hard.
It's hard.
It is hard because I can see it from both sides. It's a double-edged sword. Like, I can get it.
No, I think there's definitely conditions out there that you don't need to wear it for. Definitely, especially if you're like a carbon dioxide retainer, because obviously if you're breathing out, you need that carbon dioxide to like get away. If you're prone to retaining that, then something like we breathe in, we take in the oxygen, we breathe out the carbon dioxide. If you've got something like COPD and you do retain carbon dioxide, then I think wearing a mask just for your own comfort.
You've got COPD then.
Then you're probably shielding anyway.
Are exempt though, like.
But now I just keep one in my pocket. So.
Yeah, I've got one in every coat pocket.
Yeah, everywhere.
Literally.
And do you know what I do is the ones that I wear at work, I'll keep them in my car and I'll try and get at least one more use out of them because save the planet. Like,
did you see that thing that we've got to like cut? We should be cutting the ties because there's like pictures of like ducks.
Yeah, I ripped them everything up. What do you think the NHS will look like in 10 years' time?
Well, I hope I'm wearing one of them red dresses in 10-year times. It's like head of nursing. So if I'm head of nursing, God knows.
You were going to say one of those red dresses from that film, or not that film, from that programme, the Maiden. What is it? Oh, fuck.
What is it called? With the funny hat. What would it look like in 10 years? God knows.
Do you still see yourself working for the NHS in 10 years' time?
Yeah, I am like diehard NHS. I think like there's obviously like perks with the pay and things like that if you go agency, but there's like additional pay. So if you're like agency and pay your own, I don't know if you got pay your own tax or that if you're under like an agency nurse, but you do get better pay an hour, but you don't get like holiday pay and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is why your pay is better. So then you would go NHS. So you get your annual leave. I'm really, really, really proud to work for the NHS. Massively proud to work for the NHS.
Good. I'm proud of you too.
Maybe like weirdly patriotic, and I don't know why.
I think it is though, because I think the NHS is such an amazing thing. Like the free healthcare, like literally, it is an amazing thing to be a part of. And I think there's just so many people, all different job roles throughout the NHS. But I just think like you don't need to say what you do, but you work for the NHS. I think working like for the health board, I think it's a massive, massive thing because the NHS is so British. It really is.
It makes me proud when, like, you drive, past Gosport War Memorial and on the ground it's painted, like, thank you, NHS. And
yeah,
it's so nice to see the rainbows in the windows and, like, people still have signs outside their houses like, we love you, NHS. And like that, I think that's a really nice...
gesture?
Yeah, that's a really nice gesture.
Yeah.
Like, hand clap. Don't fucking clap for us because that's not going to do anything. But actively... appreciate like that, like having the roads painted so when you drive past the hospital you're reminded and seeing stuff in the windows. I think that is beautiful.
You say about that hand clap though, but you put a video on your Facebook, didn't you, Bobs, of when the hand clap was still going on, of all the ambulances lined up and like all of their sirens flashing.
That wasn't for the hand clap. That wasn't for that.
Oh, what was that for?
That was New Year's Eve. That was at midnight. That was at midnight. So I worked on New Year's Eve, and at midnight, I got the video on my Facebook. Oh, it was so gorgeous, and it was like all them blue lights. Like I was proper proud as punch that night to be working at the hospital. I really was. And there was so many ambulances outside, and they all put their lights on. So obviously sirens not going, but all the blue flashing lights were all going at midnight, and it was like our own little like New Year's Eve countdown, and all the ambulances were flashing their lights outside.
There, weren't they?
Yeah, there were police there as well.
That's making me like a bit emotional, and I don't know why.
I was like thinking about the tears, and I like FaceTimed my mum, and I was like, "Mum, look at this! Like, look at all the ambulance." And my mum was crying her eyes out. And I think we get criticised. Like, nurses having time to make TikToks, and nurses having time to do this, and can't be that busy if nurses are able to do this. But
you're human. Like
we need it. Like, good God. Even like when like Lint donated all them bunnies and Easter eggs and things like that, like the amount of criticism that we got. But I'm so sorry. I literally ate that Lint bunny with tears rolling down my face. I shoved it down. I've literally inhaled it. I shoved it down my throat so quick. I was crying my eyes out. If you need a lint bunny, you need a lint bunny. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't make me a bad nurse. That doesn't mean I don't care. I just was having a bad day and wanted my lint bunny. So I did, and then there's always going to be somebody that's going to have a problem, but there's always going to be a Karen. There's always going to be a Karen.
You know what though? Those Karens, if they just don't think that this pandemic is real, then they should really get in the hospitals and really help you guys, because they'd save the NHS money on PPE because it's not real, so they wouldn't have to wear masks or anything, and they could actually be doing some good.
I know. I literally so I was on nights last week and I was talking to a critical care nurse, and I was like, because I don't go wandering around the hospital. I don't know what it's like everywhere. I don't know what it's like everywhere. I don't pretend to know like what it's like everywhere. And I said how are you getting on? And she said now that the admissions are slowing down, it's starting to it was just she said it was just chaos a few weeks ago, chaos. And I was like, it's in ITU it is supposed to be 1-to-1 nursing, so one nurse has one patient, so they're on ventilation, they're on continuous monitoring. And she's like, well, it's been one nurse to 4 patients. Can you imagine having 4 such dependent patients that need full care, full absolute everything? They're literally being assisted to breathe, and then you're spending so if you've got 4 in an hour, you're spending 15 minutes an hour with each one. That's not right. It should never get to that stage, but there's not the staff.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
And she said that she was that's not, ITU is not even her specialty. That's where she's been deployed to help. And talk about being chucked in the deep end, because there is nothing. I'm a newly qualified, and the thought of working in ITU makes me want to pee myself. That's serious die-hard nursing.
Yeah, scary.
So I think I'd get there and freeze. I wouldn't know what the fuck to do.
I remember my emergency department, and we'd be in resus on placement, and there'd be a genuine emergency, and I was just stood in the corner as a second year student nurse having a cry, and I got asked to go and get something out the drug cupboard, and I literally just opened the cupboard, and another nurse was like, Bobby, are you okay? And I was like yeah, I'm alright. Why? And she was like, you're crying. And I was like, what?
Am I?
And she was like, you're literally sobbing. And I was like, I've forgotten what I've come to get out of this cupboard. And she was like, it's all right, someone else would have got it by now, you'll be fine. And it was literally just crying my eyes out.
What is the worst situation you found yourself in?
It's got to be the passing the message on to family members. It's literally where family members are so we've only got one portable phone on the ward as well, so it runs at a charge constantly because it's just in constant use. We've constantly got people phoning to talk to their relatives, 100% in their right, not denying that whatsoever, but it means the phone never gets charged. So it means we're it'll be totally dead, so we're having to verbally pass on the message. And when you're passing on messages we haven't forgotten about you, just remember we can't come in because of the pandemic, we love you, we're thinking about you, we can't wait to have you home. And you're literally giving this message, and you're a lot of our patients have got dementia, Alzheimer's, memory problems, cognitive impairments. So you're handing over messages, and that message it's not really registering. They're not going to retain that memory of getting that message. And you're but you've got a family member literally dependent, and they're not remembering their wife because they're remembering a message. They recognise their wife because they know their face, not by a comment that they would say.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time that you're there, oh, Sheila says she loves you, and John Smith doesn't know who Sheila is. It's brutal.
Yes. Well, on the flip side to that, then, what do you think is the best thing that has happened to you during this?
The best thing is with my over 85-year-old patients who have kicked COVID's butt. They have thrown the middle finger to coronavirus. They have gone home fighting fit, back to the families, back to their great grandchildren, not giving a hoot, going home. They've had it, COVID, done it, mate. I'm going home.
They're been
Smashed
there,
it.
T-shirt.
Watching on the news. I'm one of them. Oh yeah, COVID, yeah, tested positive for that. Smashed it, gone home.
Oh, it's making, just talking about it, it's just making me a bit, not sad, but like I said earlier, weirdly patriotic and really proud.
I'm so proud of you, Bobby, honestly.
Oh yeah, man,
all 4 of us have just cried.
I've had
keep crying.
It's definitely been an experience. I wouldn't want to go for it again. I'd never ever want to go for this again.
Honestly,
it sounds so horrible, but I would actually do anything to treat anything other than coronavirus, because that seems to be all it is. COVID.
When you say COVID, you're like COVID.
I know. I don't even say it like I'm interested in it anymore. I'm like, bleh.
That's probably because it's been your life, like all day, every day, like more so than anybody else, because you're in it.
Yeah.
With the new variant, so like in the first peak, we would have a bay of like 6 patients, and somebody would test positive in the bay, and the other 5 people would be negative. But with the new variant, it literally spreads like wildfire. It honestly does. So then it'd be a bay of 6 patients. 1 person would test positive, and the other 5 people would be positive.
Yeah, my sister works next door to me, like with the same type of work. And from the Monday to the Wednesday, 20 out of 24 members of staff and 6 of their people they support, which is all of them, were positive from the Monday to the Wednesday.
Literally. And we were not prepared for that second. Where we had like COVID contact and things like that this time around, like we didn't have that in the first peak. We didn't have the whole like, if you were a contact of a positive case, you had to isolate for 14 days. It just wasn't the case in the first peak. So obviously you've had like staff going off with isolation, like staff going off if someone in their household tested positive. If they'd been in contact with someone positive, then they were in isolation. So like the staffing horrific at one point because...
But how does that work though? Because if you're working on a COVID positive ward, you're coming into contact with it all the time. So how does that work?
So because we've got our PPE on, we are like protected.
Yeah, same with us.
Yeah, and me.
So because we're protected, we're okay in that front. But if I like was in a situation that I didn't have my mask on.
So do you think that this pandemic has streamlined your whole nursing experience? Do you think you would have learned as much as you have in the last year in your first year of nursing if the pandemic wasn't here?
I feel like I have learned a lot, like as far as like oxygen levels and like different masks for oxygen and things like that are, but a lot of our patients aren't for escalation, so they're not to go to ITU because obviously they're in their 90s, God love them, so they're not for massive invasive treatment. I think everything is it's been everything elderly care and then with COVID on top, so I've probably learned a lot more than what I would have done in normal circumstances. But it's hard because I don't take any joy from that, because I think of everything that's had to happen for me to get that learning.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you're always like in two minds about it. I have learned a lot. Am I happy that I've learned it? No. I'd rather have read a book.
Just a half lesson to learn then.
Yeah, I don't know, I think if I could just go back the whole year, probably. I wish I could have like gone back in proper time and been like, don't fucking eat that bat.
Yeah.
What? Like,
I don't actually know. I just know that was one of the rumours.
I'm like, this time last year I was on my honeymoon in Jamaica. Oh, sad times.
Oh, there it is again. Honeymoon in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Last time I went on a date with Dave was when I was on my honeymoon in Jamaica. You're welcome. Anyway, yeah, I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, and obviously on my honeymoon, and it was like lovely. Like there was no like scaremongering like there is now. Like when we went to the airport, there was, you get those TVs that you get them in cinemas as well, don't you? While you're waiting to buy your ticket, or at the airport you're waiting to board your plane, you've got TVs with like adverts on, or like the big bus stop billboards that change, and it'd be like shampoo and conditioner, duty free, cigarettes, COVID-19, and it would be like wash your hands, COVID-19, but it was really quick. Like it just wasn't. We laughed about it. We were like, really? Like,
yeah, so did we at work.
If it's that serious, you do more. And then like a month later, we were in complete fucking lockdown. Mad.
I still can't believe we're actually in a pandemic. Like the kids, the schools are shut. Like, do you know how much of a battle it is to shut the schools when there's a bit of fucking snow? But do you know what I mean? Like they don't shut the schools for anything. Nothing.
You never think, you've obviously heard about the pandemics that have happened in the past.
Yeah.
Never think that you're ever going to live through a global pandemic.
Do you know what got me the most though is when Dave came back. Obviously he'd been gone for 6 months or nearly 7 months. He came back and we were driving somewhere and he just went, I can't believe it. I've been gone for nearly 7 months and nothing's fucking changed. If anything, it's worse than it was when I left. Like, what a fucking shit show. And I literally couldn't resonate with anything deeper. Like, he'd been gone that time and it had gone worse. That nothing had changed. Nothing was better. And because he'd actually physically gone away and then come back, like, he saw it from, like, fresh eyes, if you will.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed. We are worse than what we were at the beginning of it.
They always said that the second peak was going to be worse, though.
It always is with
What
everything.
peak are we in now, though? Like, this is the thing. There are a lot more positive results because a lot more people who are asymptomatic are getting tested.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I'm not.
Is this the second peak or is it the third?
It's the third lockdown, but second peak.
The second peak.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know what day it is.
Did you miss out on anything special during the pandemic?
Oh, I didn't get a graduation, and I really, really wanted a graduation.
Absolutely, grants are special.
I was meant to be having like a massive birthday party for Liliana's birthday that would have been like this weekend, and obviously we're not doing that, and that's my baby's first birthday. I'm never going to get that back.
You were going to get married as well.
Okay. Shit, I forgot about that. I forgot. I was actually supposed to get married.
Josh is never going to listen to this, but...
No, Josh will never listen to it, don't worry. He's not interested in nothing I do. I was meant to get married on 22nd of August 2020. So that got cancelled.
The wedding's being cancelled. Do it for me. My friend texted me like, are you free tomorrow? Because I think we're going to get married tomorrow. And I was okay. She was like, so, yeah, we're getting married tomorrow. Can you be there? And I was like, yeah. And literally because her dad was flown over from Australia, and within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, she was in her dress, she had her makeup done, her dad walked down the aisle, and it was nothing, it wasn't like how it was meant to be, but because they were shutting all the borders, and now she's texted me again yesterday for the third time, they're moving it again. So even though she's married, and legally she's married, they paid for this big, massive celebration that, you know, like your princess dream wedding or whatever, and now for the third time has had to push it. And I just think, literally, if I got married any later or went on my honeymoon any later, I'd like, what?
Yeah.
But,
If they cancelled it that many times as well, you've got to think maybe that's a sign.
I spoke to her, we were chatting about it, and I said, like, why don't you just try and get your money back and have like a big fuck off party and then use some of it for like to buy, do you know what I mean? Go somewhere nice when you can, but it's all tied up. Like, because
so frustrating.
They paid it all off to have it, all they can do is push it back.
Yeah, if it had just been a deposit, it would have been a different situation, wouldn't it? Like, you can lose your deposit, but knowing that you've paid all this money for something, you don't then not want to have it.
Yeah.
What a fucking shit show.
We just lost. We only had like £65 was all we lost from our deposit. And then we would have got it back if we moved the date. But it was like, oh, well, we don't really want to move the date because you don't actually know when we're going to be out of this. Like, I thought it'd be done by now. I thought COVID would be like a thing of the past by now.
Yeah.
And we're still living it. So what's the point? I'll just marry him when it's all done.
So obviously this has been a pretty dark podcast. Well, it's not dark, but it's been real. What we've been going through, it's been real. So now, Bobby, we want to hear, obviously keeping your GPRD in place and whatnot. If that's even what that is, I don't have a fucking clue.
GPDR.
Yeah, that one too.
What's a GPDR?
No, GDPR, innit?
What is it?
Data protection.
General data protection.
All right, okay.
So obviously keeping that in place, we want to hear from the first day that you stepped into hospital being a student nurse to up to current, the funniest story that you have encountered.
Oh, we just had, sometimes we get the funniest of people. And I think when you've got working with patients who have got cognitive impairment, so like dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever, things like that, you do have the funniest of comments that get made. But I think definitely it's almost cringy to say it because I'm just not like, do you know that like stereotype that men have in their head of nurses? When the reality is I go home from work and I don't know what stains are on my uniform. Mm-hmm. It could be anything. I think we had a patient reading his son, like, newspaper, who decided to ask me in front of all the male doctors if I would get my boobs out like one of the Sun girls, which it's embarrassing enough as it is, especially when you don't look like a model from the Sun. But then when the male medical team decide to take it upon themselves to continuously make the jokes of like, come on, get your boobs out, and you're like the Sun models. Like the Sun models. But apart from that, without breaching patient confidentiality, I really struggle unless we're like editing it out.
No, we're not.
No, there's definitely been a few. We had a nurse have like a bit of a like upset, like, oh god, she was so upset with herself because she was trying to explain, because obviously it doesn't matter what's wrong with you, it's your right to know what's wrong with you, so whether you're going to remember or not, that doesn't matter. And oh my god, she said to this patient, she said, do you know that virus that's on the news that everybody's talking about, the coronavirus? Yeah, you've got it. Why did you say that to that? And this poor woman, and she was like, I just didn't know how to explain it. Like, could you imagine? Do you know that virus everyone's watching on the news? Yeah, you got it. Like, can you imagine how like more cow way to tell someone that they're COVID positive?
Oh no.
That deadly virus that's on the news. Wow, that's in you.
Got it, hon, it's your turn.
Literally. Oh, there's definitely been some, like, as a team, our ward has grown so close as a team, because nobody's going to understand what we're going through, like your teammates. And it doesn't matter, like, I tell half the problems when I get home, because obviously, like, Josh is like my own vent. But there's only like so much that you can sort of get upset when you've got kids to get ready for school and whatnot. There's only so much that you can sort of like vent it to. So it's been one of them. I don't want to do it again. I'm on annual leave. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my annual leave, and then I'm back to work on Monday night.
Well, thank you for spending your annual leave talking to us about it.
I'm stuck with you anyway, Abby.
Well,
Amy and Millie were my optionals.
How many more times will you get wine delivered through Deliveroo? Is it expensive? And is the delivery charge extortionate? Or
so I get charged £2.50 for delivery, which is cheaper than McDonald's, and I'll probably get that delivered just as much. So really, my wine is a bargain. When you can't go out, you can get wine delivered. Do you know how easy it is to develop a drinking problem? It's awful. But as long as I haven't got the school run the next day, I will get my wine delivered. So probably Friday night, Saturday night. Probably Sunday night as well. Because it's half term.
No, you could do that. I thought you could only get like takeaways.
Oh, no. You can get wine, beer, spirits,
snacks.
Honestly,
chocolate,
I'm already
biscuits.
desperate enough as it is, okay?
Deliveroo was my saviour during my isolation.
Sometimes you just got to think what's more important, money or your happiness. And I think when it comes to Deliveroo, got to do what makes you happy.
And if you want that wine delivered, you get that wine delivered.
Yes.
You work hard for your money, you spend it on what you need.
Honestly, I feel like I've just learned a new life skill.
If you ever feel bad about it, just remember you're breaking the chain to a potentially vulnerable person by not going to the shop. So
yeah, absolutely.
Do it. If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for Bori. All right, get your wine delivered.
Do it for Bojo. Get your wine delivered.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
Yes, thank you. Sorry we've chewed your ear off.
Well, we appreciate you.
I listen to your podcast when I'm like doing my makeup, so I'm kind of hoping that like, we ain't got people getting too emotional whilst they're doing their makeup in the morning, listening to the podcast, because that would just be a disaster.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
I can't turn the camera back round. I'm so sorry, but I don't understand Skype. So, wait.
Stay safe. Enjoy all that wine. Enjoy your annual leave.
And we appreciate you.
Yeah.
I'd like to make out like I'm a total hero on the front line, but...
You are. You all are.
You're working on the front line. That's enough.
Can we get a round of applause for the key worker? So, honestly, when them claps would go off on a Thursday night, if we were going to work, we'd be like scarlet red in the face, like, oh, just please stop clapping. It's so
Some of our neighbours, like at work, used to come out and be like, "We're doing this for you."
Oh, my mum would
Cheers, Mum.
FaceTime me like, "Are you listening, Bobby Lee? This is for you. This clap is for you." And I'm like,
Oh,
my
that's
God."
so sweet.
Like, just stop, Mum. Just go inside. Just
Oh,
get indoors.
Do you have a final word for the pod, Bobs?
Keep your masks on.
yes.
Don't take your masks off.
Perfect.
Adios, amigos.
Take care. Bye. Arrivederci. Always a pleasure. Never a chore.